Delawande. I'm here to talk to you about historical trauma, generational trauma, and post-colonial distress. Symptoms of historical trauma can be addictions, poverty, depression, anxiety, compulsivities, somatic spoilage, domestic violence, racism, suicide, poor birth outcomes, diabetes, asthma, and more. As a historical trauma trainer, perinatal practitioner, adult and family educator, group facilitator, traditional storyteller, and first foods advocate, naturally, I'm an advocate of sacred. Advocates of Sacred's mission is to champion, integrate, and cultivate Indigenous healing modalities. With evidence-based healing practices, research, and theory of Indigenous knowing, we want to help facilitate your transformation. Advocates of Sacred uses epigenetics and biodecoding to interpret our clients' relationships, rather gauging a temperature, gauging a measure. Biodecoding is understanding that somatic experiences through body expression tell us our story. Our bodies keep in hold on a cellular, biological, and physical level when trauma happens. When we get hurt, emotionally, spiritually, or physically, our body holds on to it. Just as the stars cluster in the constellations and we follow the red road as the first people, or we use the constellations to navigate our direction where we're going, negative space clusters into black holes, into false planets, so we can be misled. Trauma clusters in our bodies, causing blockage, degeneration, inflammation on a cellular, biological level. This again sets us up for ailments, accidents, injuries to happen where that trauma has settled. An example of epigenetics is this piece of paper and this pen. So epi means on top of the gene. When the epigenetic is on top of the gene, it doesn't have a great big impact on us. We all have epigenetics on our genes. We all inherited our ancestors' experiences, good and bad, positive and negative. Our epigenetic becomes activated through our environment, through being at ceremony, through being at work, through being a parent, being a granddaughter, being an uncle. Through a traumatic experience, our epigenetics become activated. Just as this flame to this piece of paper, activation begins. So the epigenetic can be a flame and a fire that's going to fuel bigger traumas, activating our ancestral traumas and generational traumas, or it's going to be a fire that fuels the healing using the resilience of our ancestors' knowing, using the resilience that's shared through our traditional storytelling, through our Indigenous and domestic healing modalities. Imagine if this piece of paper was a piece of wood. How much longer would that fire burn? Epigenetics are activated only through our environment. Epigenetics can be good or bad, depending on your interpersonal health, depending on who you are and how you're interpreting a certain experience. Because you see, you can be at a ceremony and not be present. You can be at work and not be present. It's up to you to interpret your life's experiences through somatic archaeology, generational brain spotting, traditional storytelling, eating first foods, breastfeeding, taking care of our pregnant people, ceremony, tribal canoe journeys, employing and occupying our sacred instruments, being a decent human being. Advocates of Sacred wants to invite you to interrupt generational trauma, to stop somatic spoilage, to break the cycle, using indigenous healing modalities, be it traditional storytelling, be it first food advocacy, breastfeeding, helping pregnant people, employing somatic archaeology, practicing generational brain spotting, learning more about historical trauma, finding your highest self, waking up your inner ancestor, Decolonize.